Good morning, guys. This is Miss Schaefer. Emily and I have checkup appointments with our doctor, so we will not, or I will not be here this morning. I will be back at school around 12, so you may see me this afternoon. So you should have had time to work on your bell work. So let's check our answers. Now, the first two are review questions. Number 3 is something we're currently working on, so I'm going to go over number 3 real quick. Let me recopy it. And then I always write my Pemdas to the side. All right. So if I'm following Pemdas, my first step is parentheses. So I'm going to underline my parentheses. I'm going to recopy everything else. So 1 plus 2 is 3. So I'm going to plug that in there. There aren't any exponents. Now I'm going to work on multiplication division, left to right. So that leaves me with, or that leads me to work on the 6 divided by 3. I'm going to recopy the times 5. 6 divided by 3 gives me 2. And then all I have left to do is the 2 times 5, which is 10. And then notice how my work kind of makes a triangle because we're simplifying it down. All right, put your bell work in a safe spot so that you know where it is tomorrow. And then at this time, if somebody wants to pause the video and somebody can collect homework for the class and turn it into the bin for me. Okay. So today we're going to continue with our properties notes that we started yesterday. We left the distributive property blank and saved it for today. And so go ahead and open to that page, and we're going to be filling out the distributive property flap. So the distributive property says that multiplying the sum of two add-ins by a number will give the same result as multiplying each add-in individually by the number and adding the products together. So what this is saying is that if we have a situation like this where we have 6 plus 3 in parentheses, and then we have a 2 outside of the parentheses, you can, with arrows, you can draw a 2 to the 6. That's where you get this. Then from the 2 to the 3 is where you get this. So let's practice that real quick. Or actually, let's continue to talk about it. Sorry about that. So when doing the distributive property, the first step is to draw the arrows. You're going to rewrite with multiplication, and then you're going to use Pemdas to solve. Okay, so for this example, we have 3, and then in parentheses, we have 4 plus 1. So that means we're going to be multiplying. So we have our first arrow here, 3 to the 4, so that means 3 times 4. Change colors. And I'm going to keep that addition sign that's inside of my parentheses. And then we make the second arrow, and that's where I got this 3 times 1. And then we're going to solve going left to right, because of PEMDAS, multiplication, division, left to right. So we're going to do the 3 times 4 first, which gave us 12. Then the 3 times 1, which gave us 3. And then we add them together to get 15. So in a moment, you're going to get this worksheet, and it's going to be a little different because you are going to identify and correct each error, okay? So for like number one, you see that the student went ahead and used a distributive property. You have to determine if they did it correctly or if they made a mistake. And if they made a mistake, you need to correct it. So pause the video real quick and let's pass out this worksheet, this practice worksheet for everybody. All right, so let's do number one together. So here I have x plus 7 in parentheses times 6. So using the distributive property, and I'm going to change it back to red. There we go. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see it better. What we learned about the distributive property is that I'm going to take the 6 and draw an arrow to the x. So that makes a 6x. And when you have a number and a variable next to each other like that, you know that that's multiplication. So hopefully you remember that. I'm going to write my plus sign, and then I'm going to do my 6 times 7. So then if I solve it, it's 6x plus, what is 6 times 7? Hopefully you said 42. And then there's nothing else that we can do to solve right now. So let's look at what the student did and see if they're correct. Well, I can already see a difference. Hopefully you can see that they did not multiply the 6 times 7. They just copied down a plus 7. And we did the 6 times 7. So where they got it wrong is right here. So what I want you to do now, we have, let's see, 8 problems on this practice page. I want you to pause the video and let's give about 10 minutes to find the errors for each one of these. Make sure you're showing your work, showing your thinking, so that whenever I look at them, when I get back to school, I can tell your work process, and if there's any mistakes, I can catch them, okay? So pause the video for about 10 minutes and let's work on that. Okay, so let's see how we did. Let's start with, I know I kind of cropped it in an incorrect order. I have 1, 2, 5, and 6, but let's go ahead and do number 5. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So if we follow the distributive property, I have an arrow going here. That will be, what is 3 times 2x plus 3 times 8. Then I'm going to solve using Pemdas. And if this confuses you, having the 3x, 2x, even though the first x is multiplication, you can do this. Remember, that's also multiplication. So then I'm going to solve left to right. So I'm going to do this one first. 3 times 2 is 6. And then I'm just going to recopy that variable, that x. And then I'm going to do the 3 times 8, which is 24. So if I look over here, the mistake they made was this right here. They just copied the 8 instead of using the distributive property. Okay, let's look at number 2. I have a first arrow going to the first set. So that is 2. And again, they used 4x. So I'm going to do the dot. 2 times 4x plus 2 times 8. I'm going to use Pemdas, so I'm going to multiply left to right. So 2 times 4 is 8. I'm going to recopy the variable of 8x. Now I'm going to work on this. 2 times 8 is 16. So when I look over here, They got the first part correct, but again, they got this part wrong. If I had to guess, it looks like maybe they did 2 plus 8, which gave us 10, but we are multiplying 2 times 8. Okay, let's look at number 6. I'm going to go ahead and draw my arrows. So first thing is I have 2 times 8x, and again, they're using x, so I'm going to use the dot just so I don't get confused. Write the plus sign, then 2 times 2. I'm going to solve left to right. So here I'm going to do 2 times 8, which is 16. I'm going to recopy the x, add the plus sign. Then 2 times 2 is 4. And let's see how they did. They got the first part right, and again, they did not get the second part right. Looks like maybe they just copied the 16 from before. Not sure. But that should be a plus 4. Okay, I'm going to talk a little faster so I don't run out of time on my video here. But again, we're doing the arrows. So then we should have 4 times 5 plus 4 times 2x. 4 times 5 is 20 plus 4 times 2 is 8, and with the variable. So it looks like that was correct, but maybe they divided and got 2 instead of the 8x. Let's look at 7 and draw my arrows. 4 times 3x plus 4 times 8. I'll work on this first. 4 times 3 is 12. Then I'm going to write the variable. And then 4 times 8 is 32. So it looks like they put their x in the wrong spot. That needs to go right here, right? But other than that, they did the multiplication correctly. All right, number 4. Draw my arrows. 10 times 2x plus 10 times 6. So I'm going to answer this one first, which gives me 20x plus 10 times 6 is 60. Let's see how they did. Almost. They just forgot that 0 there. All right. I think this is the last one. Draw my arrows. So then I have 3 times 2x plus 3 times, and I'm going to keep that negative with it and make it a negative 4. Okay, I'm going to pretend that's a negative 4. So let's see. 3 times negative 4. I'm going to put it in parentheses so it doesn't blend all together. 3 times 2 is 6. Write my variable. And then I have 3 times negative 4, which makes it a negative 12. So the only difference here is that you need a little negative sign. Yeah. All right. Now, if we're still doing good on time, we can do this activity where you're going to pick a partner and you are going to choose if you want to solve column A or column B. And even though they're different problems, in each row, they're going to have the same answer. So you can check each other by seeing if you had the same answer. Even though they're different problems, they have the same answer. You can check each other. If we don't have time, we can skip that, and then we can pass out homework, and maybe you get a little time to work on homework. Homework will be due at the beginning of class tomorrow, and I will see you tomorrow.